Hello.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you to see you. Nice that you are being here, sitting with us. And yeah, I just heard one sentence of you. You just said the only thing we can do to balance our emotions or our feelings.
Yeah.
So it would be great when you can talk and say what your experience is and how it came about and how what we can do. What do you mean by balance our emotion?
Yeah. So thanks for the question. That firstly, the human won't become enlightened. Like, it's an endless dream that the human has of becoming enlightened. What happens when you're born, there is this awakeness. So I'm just going to go on a massive story now, and then I'll eventually come back to dealing with emotions. And you've most probably heard me say this before, but this is for everyone else as well, so don't just jump in too far ahead. So when you're born, there is this awakeness, and then at 1 or 2 or 3, there's an identification with the body-mind that happens. And then you begin to identify more and more with the horizontal line going in time. As a baby, you're awake, and you didn't have a sense, I'm a name, I arrived here, I'm 3 years old. You just were awake, or I'm 1 year old, you were just awake and experiencing life. And then as the thinking mind started, there was an identification with that, and that story became stronger and stronger. And then after 10 years, you really believe that you are your name, your body, and you've totally forgotten about the awakeness that was there. It's totally covered by you. It's not you that wakes up again. It's already there. It's just that the focus energetically is attached to the personality structure. So what happens at 10? You're still not deeply suffering. Some 10-year-olds are. But you, as time goes on, you begin to suffer more because you're living your life wrong. I know a lot of people sell that to you. You're living your life wrong and you've got to come and do a retreat with me to get your life right. But I don't mean it in that sense that you've done anything wrong, or that you need to live your life right in order to be happy. It's just that what you begin to do is you begin to produce and encourage and grow a thinking pattern that is based on separation, and separation is out of line with life. Life is this delicate dance that's happening way beyond you, way beyond the character that says I do or I don't do. It's like this flow. And what happens when you identify with the personality structure is you begin to tell yourself thoughts that are outside of flow. So you begin to say, I'm guilty, they're guilty, I did something wrong, I have to do this, I have to do this in order to be happy. At 10 years old, you're still open to play and still open to spontaneity, but you're being heavily conditioned that your happiness is on production, on gaining money and a job, that your happiness is based on that. Now, that's what we do as humans, is we work. I'm not against working and I'm not against money or getting a job, but we believe that we're going to earn money and get a job, and that we're going to arrive at a time in a place in time which will be perfect, that we'll suddenly be able to switch off our whole drama and our play and our games, and that we will arrive. So what you do is you begin to develop a thinking mind that's based on a lie. So imagine now if I told you all the idea and we began to believe. This happens in many cults. I am not a cult, but this is what happens in many cults. They begin to believe that this is a big one in cults. This is a big one in spirituality. And it's really ironic that Anna just walked up now when I start saying this, but I can't help what my body wants to say. So we believe in spirituality, and what happens in a cult is we begin to believe that our society is really bad. And when we begin to believe this, we then believe that we are doing the right thing here, that we're doing the good thing. You must have heard many teachers saying that. In a way, I'm already implying it by telling you about your seeking self. But actually, I love society. I'm also open to improving society, but I also love it. I love where I live. I love my culture. I love the food. Food is very important to me. I love the health food stores. I love the taxing system. I love it that my government pays money to people that don't have enough money. So my cleaning lady, my cleaning lady can't afford to live in Toulouse, but the government subsidise her so she they pay for the rest of her rent, so she only pays the amount that she can pay, and then the government subsidise that. I think that is amazing that I live in a society that does that, and I'm so grateful. What happens in cults is we get into this mentality, and you might have got into it before, because in order for a group to work, you have to have something that you're fighting against. This is fundamental. You have to have an enemy. So an enemy is normally the state. We're going to stick it to the man or the woman. So it's normally the state that we're going to stick it to. And they are all living their life wrong, and they are all suffering immensely, and their wrongness has affected us and affected our children, and they've done all these types of bad things to humanity, and we're in a really bad way, but we are not. We are in a good way. We've got the right path. We're going to sort ourselves out. We're going to iron out all the cracks, and then we're going to save the whole world by spreading love. That's a wonderful idea, and I like that story too. I'm all in. But when you've been around the spiritual circuit many times, you're like, yeah, that doesn't work either. Yep, okay. So imagine if I were to give you this story, we could already begin to believe it. But imagine I didn't tell you that it was society that was really bad. I told you that all these little blue elves that were making the world bad. Now, some people would leave. They'd be like, nah, there isn't. But for some people, it would be like, okay, tell me more. And we really got into it, and collectively, because we've got such great imaginations, if we all began to collectively believe in it, we would kind of see it. We'd kind of see these blue elves that were like creating all the bad things in the world. We'd be like, I can see blue elves around you. Yep, look at your aura, it's full of blue elves. Yes, I can definitely see it. I'm not talking about you, Adrian, it just so happens that you're sat there. Apologies. Look away at the bag. So we will begin to see it after time, especially if collectively other people believing in it. So have you ever heard this really funky story? Now, I don't know if this is true, but this is just something that people that came before taught me. So I read this in a book, that when explorers arrived in some continent that was not yet explored by Europeans, then when they arrived, there were native people. And these native people had never seen boats before. And so they couldn't see them. Isn't that cool? They couldn't see the boats. So there's like all the Europeans arriving on these huge boats, like, yeah, here we come. And the locals couldn't see it. They're like... But what they could see was that the water was moving in a different way. So they're like, well, this is very strange. And it wasn't until they began to communicate with Europeans. They could see Europeans because they were humans. So when humans began to come out of the water, they were like, where did they come from? But they couldn't see the boats until they were taught what boats were. And then they began to see them. Isn't that really amazing? That really tripped my mind out. I was like, wow, there is so many things that I've not named and therefore I'm not seeing in this world. So honestly, if we all collectively name something, more than likely we'll begin to see it. It's the way it seems to work in this funky world. So if I told you this thing, if I told you something that's not true and we all began to believe in it, there's going to be leaks. There's going to be problems that begin to arise because it's not in the natural flow of things. We've imagined it. So we're going to have the problem that other people don't see it, but we'll think they're ignorant. And we're going to have lots of problems that form from that belief structure, that there are elves around people. There's going to be lots of holes in the story and lots of conflicts that begin to arise. It's the same with the idea, so you've been hypnotized to believe that one day you're going to find freedom in a future event, that your salvation is time. This isn't something you were born with, this is something you were convinced about. And everybody in our society is convinced that when we finish this, when we complete this, when we do that, when we get there, when the neighbour stops being the pain, when this happens, when that happens, when I shoot all the magpies or crows, then this happens, when I do that, when I master this, when I get enough money, when I have achieved this, I will be able to relax, I will get home. And we are deeply, deeply conditioned to believe this. So what happens in our experience, in this moment, we're always looking for something else. So we can never, on the human level, relax because we're always looking for something else. We're always looking for something more. So what it begins to do in our emotional body is our emotional body knows the truth. Our body knows the truth. Our body knows we're not somebody. Our body knows that it's not going to be found in the future. Our body knows all these things, but our mind is convincing us of something that's not true. So our body begins to get into conflict and our emotions begin to become extremely out of balance. And we can't switch off the thinking mind. So when an anxiety comes, we can't switch it off. Or when a fear comes, we can't switch it off. We can't process it or balance it properly. So I discovered, it wasn't me personally, but I discovered by other people teaching me ways to deal with emotion. So it wasn't my discovery, I'm not claiming it, but I discovered it myself by using other people's techniques of a way of balancing my emotions. And it's really simple, but on the human level it takes effort. First of all, you have to be honest with yourself, which is hard because often we want to tell a story of ourselves which is different to what we're actually feeling. So my teacher taught me your body is the key. Your body knows the truth. So say in the olden days when I was when there was more emotional disbalance, I would walk into the room and I would want to show everyone that I'm happy. And I would even begin to believe that I'm happy, in a way. But if I touched into my body or looked at my thinking mind, I was actually in lots of stress and I was in anxiety and discomfort. But I wanted, on the surface, to really be a happy person. This is just an example. So there has to be an honesty that comes about. You have to be honest what your body's feeling. So you might want to be sitting here and be happy and for the whole spiritual search to be over. You might want to be enlightened. But it doesn't even matter, the idea of enlightenment. It's just an idea. You just got to be honest with what you're actually feeling. If you're feeling stressed now, just be honest. Just register it. I am stressed. My body is uncomfortable. My solar plexus hurts. I feel sick. Just be honest. As soon as you're honest, you can then begin to transform it. But honesty is the first thing, and that is incredibly difficult because you have an image of what you want to be. Like, so say if you walk into a situation and somebody says to you, you're angry, and you're fucking livid, but you don't want to be an angry person, you want to be a spiritual person. You're like, no, I'm not angry. No, I'm happy. And it's so obvious that you're angry. It's so hard at beginning to admit it. But your body is the key. Just move your attention into your body, and your body will know exactly what you are. Your thoughts will lie. That's the first stage to changing your emotions and balancing your emotions. Once you've done this, try to identify what chakra you feel it in. So chakras is a very helpful system. And try and identify where you feel that in your body. So if you feel anger, where is that in my body? At first, your mind might say it's in my head. But you know, if you really think about it, it can't be in your head, anger. The imagination of anger, so someone being annoying is in your head, like you could think that person is annoying, but the feeling of it more than likely isn't in your head. But that's a lot of the time when I first start asking people, what is it you feel in your body? They'll say, it's in my head, sadness is in my head, anger is in my head. But just try to put your attention more and more in the body and see if you feel it in the body and identify it. Once you've found it in the body, then give it some space. Just sit and meditate and explore it. See what you're truly angry about. Like, it's most probably you're not angry that your tea came late. Like, it could be that you're angry about that, but that will most probably dissipate instantly. It's anger and then it's gone. If you're hanging on to it, then it's most probably a past anger, like you're still angry with the mother or father, or it's from a previous life. So just have an exploration of what it is you're angry about. And then the next stage is once you've done that and you've acknowledged it and you've accepted it and you see why it's arisen in the personality structure, you then, this is the fun part, you begin to ask it what it is I want. And this will be a process as well. At first it might be like, I want to kill everybody. That's not your true want. That's a fake want. But first of all, that might be what the anger says. I want to kill everybody. I want to wipe out whole of society. But just let it have its game. Like, just really ask what it wants. Eventually, you'll most probably get down to, I want love and I want to give, because that's what we're like as humans. We want to fit in, we want to love, and we want to give. Our natural way is to give. We're a community animal. But you go through all these processes, so ask it what it wants. And then it might get past the stage of wanting to kill everyone. It might realise that I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to be appreciated by my parents. And give it space, investigate, and just keep asking what it is I want. Eventually, after time, this might take months, after time, a positive vibration will begin to open up. you'll find something that of what you want that's really positive. So say with your neighbours, if your neighbours are really irritating you, hang on, and you've gone through this whole process, the next thing is you might, or the place that you might get to is, I want to get on with my neighbours. And as soon as you say that, you might notice that your body begins to feel better. I want to feel family with my neighbour. I want to feel friendship and family and sharing and giving. And it might be hard because you might have an image of what your neighbours are and might not be able to believe it, but you've got to suspend belief and believe anything you want. So if that's what you want, you've got to allow it, and you've got to really begin to imagine how beautiful your friendship will be with your neighbours. And you'll notice your body begins to feel really beautiful. Like, you'll notice a positive energy, but you mustn't skip the stages. You can't go to this stage when you're still in, I fucking hate them. You've got to do the stages gently. And then when the positive vibration comes, really begin to go for it. Like, really go for it. Like, all these imaginations, and I want everybody to be walking on rainbows, and let your body really feel positive. And eventually you'll begin to feel lots of love. And then when you've got to that stage, you just give all what you want to God. You give it up. Like, as in, not you have to give it away and say, I don't want this anymore. It's just like, you give it up. You trust that God will give you whatever you want. So you give it to God. Like, here it is. If this is my destiny, this will come. And then you get the best stage of all. You go, I am. So you take away all, like, the wants. I want this, I want that. And you eventually get to just an I am. And your body will be balanced again. Eventually this will become a quicker and quicker process, and you will be able to argue with your partner. I can assure you from first-hand experience, you'll be able to have a terrible fight about who did the washing up, and then you'll be able to get to I am so quickly. You might even be able to reduce the argument time to just 1 minute, and then you can both get into what you want and then the I am, and feeling love for each other again very quickly. I'm not saying that we stop arguing. Arguing is something that helps us evolve. What we will begin to stop is any hate or blame for the other. You'll just see it as part of what helps us evolve. Like you've got to see people arguing with you as a gift, because they're challenging your ideas, and then they're helping you to expand your ideas. Like, we didn't evolve by mistake. Arguments are healthy for us to expand. What we don't like about arguments is, like, years and years of hate. It's like you hold these arguments against each other, and you don't see each other fresh anymore. You hold them, and then years and years of hate build up, and then your arguments go for a very long time. It's kind of like you never see them again as they are, which is innocence. You see them as somebody that did these things. So that is how you balance emotions. I will put this on YouTube, but the internet's really bad at the moment, so we can't get it on YouTube, so you can re-watch that bit if you want the stages again. It takes time in the human world. It's really beautiful and it's really healthy. You'll find all your relationships improve from it, and that your body and your overall feeling is more positive. And then I feel like when that begins to happen, like when there stops being like these really long, like going into time, worrying about things, anxiety, hating people, when that begins to dissipate, then this other subject can be heard. Like, there's not so much dust in front of the eyes. But it's not you that wakes up. So when we go into non-duality, we have to then see that you're not doing that to wake up. You're not doing that for you to wake up, because who wakes up? But this is really healthy thing to do. Just like if your body was unfit, if your body was sick, you would give it nice food, you would do exercise, you would do all these nice things for the body. This is doing nice things for the brain, which is part of the body. Like, it's, and for the body and for the emotional system as well. Thank you for your question. Do you have anything else you'd like to ask or add?
No, I just like it how you break it down, because mostly, I think most of us, me including myself, get mixed up with the different levels. And yeah, so I like it how you say it on the human level, then I understand it totally and I agree. And in the nothingness, you don't even have to look at your emotion because they are also not. So I always get mixed up. So I like it really how you sort of divide it into different levels. So before this, you could say, "Oh, we can't do anything," and then you get in this sort of
that's not
lost,
healthy.
depressed state.
Yeah.
But so when you divide the levels and you see, oh yeah, I can do something for myself and see this, and at the same time be aware of it's not real, nothing.
Yeah, totally. And this is the part that's difficult with non-duality, because if you had a broken leg, you would go and fix it. And I see the conditioning. It's not that the conditioning is broken, but it's conditioning. It's part of the body. It's not that different from a broken leg. It's not that you are a separate entity. It's that your body's been trained to be a certain way. You've got genetic history, so you've got your family line, and then you've got your conditioning that you've got in this life, which is no different from the physicality, from if you had something wrong with your blood or if you had something wrong with your eyes, you would fix it. It's just part of this body. But the confusing part is that we think we are our conditions. We think we are that person, and we've attached that to consciousness. So then it's very difficult for our mind to get over the idea that that person doesn't wake up because that person doesn't exist. So what it does is it then tries to be nothing or nobody on the human level, which isn't at all helpful, to be nothing or nobody on the human level. Like that teaching, that non-duality teaching, is beyond the human level. And the human, we got to be human. Like, we got to be human with all our insecurities, vulnerabilities, all of that. Totally ourself as we are. Like, if I think about Khaleesi, Khaleesi is my dog in Europe, and I would find it so sad to try and teach her personality structure that she's got to be a nothing personality structure with no reactions, with no habits. Like, she's so spunky and full of life. She's so spunky and embarrassing. She embarrasses me sometimes. Like, she's just taken fleas to my mother's house. And they're now apparently ticks. I don't know how she took the ticks as well. Because when you go back from France to Europe, they have to have this tick pill, but she's managed to. She smuggled them in. But she's so... I love her spunkiness and her life and her uniqueness. Like, that would make me so sad, like, trying to teach the conditioning of Khaleesi. You've got to be nothing. You've got to not exist. But she's like, Papa, here I am. Like, and the same with a child. Like, a child enjoys so much becoming somebody. It's just that I think that what could maybe happen in education system or in the family structure is also the pointing out of this. But the child enjoys so much, like, developing their personality structure. It's just when the personality structure begins to be too much based on this lie that you are actually separate. It's like seeing the other, that there is this infinite part of them. But like all their unique qualities, like I remember, and I'm sure all of us do, like being in the playground, and you could already see all the characters, like in the playground, like all the different characters. And when you meet them again as an adult, like 20, 30 years later, you can still see their little character from the playground. Like, you got the bossy one, you've got the shy one, the creative one, like, and they've still got these qualities, and these should be celebrated. They're so unique. But we get it all mixed up, and then we try to oppress each other because we believe our happiness is in them not being a pain in the arse. But part of Khaleesi being a pain in the arse, when she is a pain in the arse, is her uniqueness and her beauty, because the opposite side comes as well. Like she's quite fiery. She's a guard dog. She guards me. So if anyone comes to the house, she's on it. If anyone approaches me too quickly, she is on it. She is ready. Like, ready to take the hand off. Although she's never done that before. Hopefully she never will. And that's part of her quality. Like, she's a guard dog. And I've got to train her to not do it, to not actually act it out, just to threaten or make her presence known. But this is part of her personality. She's like it with everything. If the cat comes in the garden, she's on it. She's watching for all the birds. Like, when are they going to land? I noticed now she looks up in the trees now. She's not just looking on the ground. She's like waiting for them to come into the garden. And she stalks things in my mum's garden. She sits in the flower bed and she stalks. Like, you just see her like a statue for 3 hours. She doesn't lay down. She's just there behind the bush. She's a wild dog, so she's more like a cat. And she's just stalking, like. No movement. And it's just so beautiful. This is her. Like, me and my mum take pictures of her because it's so funny. It's like their statue. She's waiting for any animal to enter. She is there. It's a squirrel, mostly in my mum's garden, that she's on. And it's so sweet. And this is what makes up her little personality structure, is that she is alert and highly attentive to everything. But we don't want to actually get the animal or get the human. But I really appreciate her being my guard dog. I live in a village, a little bit remote, and she makes her presence known. And I appreciate that very much.